Hello, it's Dr. Edward here for take 2 of the weekly Holistic Pet Health Show with the Healing Vet, because halfway through take 1 the internet crashed on me. So I'm going to start again from the beginning, and today we're going to talk about how your pets communicate. A whole lot of information that most humans absolutely have no idea is even going on. So your fur kids are saying a hell of a lot to you all the time. There's a lot of really subtle communication from your animals that you're probably missing. The animals are non-verbal. We are very verbal creatures, us humans, and we think that words are amazing. And we get tangled up in our words and forget about non-verbal communication, especially with our animals. The better you get at understanding your beautiful animals, companions, subtle non-verbal communication, the deeper your bond and connection is going to get with them, and the happier your pets are going to be as well, because they will feel like you can hear and understand them and listen to them. And being heard like that is the most beautiful thing that can happen for anyone. So let's think about humans. We use words. We're verbal creatures. We're the only verbal creatures on the planet. We're the only beings on the planet that have developed complex language so that we can transmit and receive complex abstract concepts and ideas. Now, animals do make noise, so they vocalize sounds, but there's no words or language in the sounds of animals. Animals can express a very large amount of emotional information in the tone and the nature of the sounds that they make, but they can't speak words, with the exception of some parrots that have learned how to do that from humans. And some primates have learned how to use language in fairly advanced ways from humans. But in the wild, they don't have that language, verbal thing that we have going on. So the verbal content of human communication is actually a small fraction of what's going on when two humans are talking to each other. Non-verbal content such as tone of voice, body language, expressions, gestures, and a whole host of more subtle signs like the heart rate, breathing, pattern of breathing, direction of the gaze, intensity of the gaze, eye movements. And if you want to get really subtle, there's pheromones being released by the humans as they're interacting with each other, and biophotons, and there's electromagnetic communication going on in terms of energy frequencies between humans when they're communicating as well. So that is actually the vast majority of what's going on. In terms of communication, that's a much larger content than the information coming through in the words. And to illustrate that, there's a study that I read about in a book called Blink by a fellow called Malcolm Gladwell, where they got a doctor talking and they fuzzed the speech so you couldn't actually make any sense of the words, but you could understand the tone of voice. And people could listen to that recording for a very short space of time, some 30 seconds or something, and were able to assess with a really high degree of accuracy how likely it would be for that doctor to be sued for malpractice by their patients, which is really interesting. The key thing is that the strongest indicator of the doctor being sued is if they talk down to their patients, interrupt their patients, don't listen. So imagine what your pets might feel like, in that you're not able to listen to most of their communication, because humans are honestly really pretty awful at listening to and understanding non-verbal communication, whether it's from other humans or their animals. Now, and this is why dogs and cats are nearly always far better at training their humans than their humans are at training them. Your animals are, their communication, they are masters of non-verbal communication, understanding non-verbal communication. They're much, much more sensitive to microscopic shifts in you than you realize, and they know what you're thinking and feeling better than you do a lot of the time. You can test this, Think about going for a walk. Your dogs will instantly perk up. Even if you say nothing or don't even really do anything, that's going to indicate that you're going for a walk. If you walk around thinking, I'm going to go for a walk, take the dogs for a walk, they'll instantly be like, oh, there's a walk happening. So how can you learn how to understand and talk to your dogs better? The first thing you want to do is to get curious, to get really, really curious, because a lot of what you want to understand and listen to in your pet's nonverbal communication is subtle. Microscopic changes in your pet's nonverbal communication can mean a hell of a lot. So what do you need to look for? Everything, really, but no. Facial expressions. So in our pets, that includes the ears and whiskers, all of which are mobile and expressive. Look for the smallest shifts and be curious about what they might mean about how your animal is thinking and feeling about what's going on. Observe your animals really closely when they're interacting with you and when they're interacting with other people or other animals. And your pet's eyes are really, really expressive. The slightest narrowing or relaxation in the eyelids can speak volumes. And just the connection of the eyes with your animal, they can transmit a lot of feeling through their eyes just by looking at you. The gaze in animals is really, really, really important with communication. So the direction, the intensity of the gaze, and the movement of the eyes in terms of where and when animals look at certain places relative to the other animals is really, really, really rich in how much information is being exchanged between the animals when you do that. And one of the things is you should never stare into an animal's eyes when you first meet them. It's very threatening, pushy communication. But what you can do is look a little off to the side and do soft eyes, soft, sleepy eyes with slow blinks. And maybe yawn, because yawning is a soothing, calming communication to animals. So if you're going to an animal that doesn't know you and they're a bit like, I don't know if I like this person or not, if you do soft, sleepy eyes and yawn a few times, you'll often see the animal go, oh, this human's safe. I feel comfortable with them. And little flicks and movements of the animal's eyes. And if you meeting a new animal and you just glance very quickly at them, that's actually a very shocking communication for that animal. It's very abrupt and can upset them. Body posture and movement. So the direction of movement of animals in space relative to other animals is also very, very rich way to communicate with each other. And the posture of the body, is the body held up tall and confident, or are they curved and a bit timid? And the way my little Mitzi's body shape changes from when I say, right, bath time, to let's go for a walk, is just night and day. There's a massive, massive communication of how he's feeling in that. Breathing and heart rate. So watching the speed of your animal's breath and where they're breathing. If an animal's anxious, they'll tend to have shallow, fast breath up in the top of the chest. When they relax, be slower and deeper down into the belly. And the more curious you get, the more you're going to learn. Because, a literally microscopic change in facial expressions will alert you to a whole lot of communication going on between animals. When you get sensitized to it, when you start really tuning into the non-verbal nature of your animal's communication, you're going to be able to understand your animals so much more deeply, and they are going to really enjoy that so much, because your animals are going to feel heard. They're going to feel like, wow, this human's really responding to my communication. And it takes time and practice. The only way to practice sensitivity is to become sensitive is to practice sensitivity, as my Qigong teacher, Bruce Francis, says. You'll pick up larger nonverbal cues in the beginning, and as you get good at picking up the larger nonverbal cues, then you'll start to pick up shadings and subtleties of nonverbal cues and communication from your animals. And it's fun. You go to the dog park and watch all the dogs. You start going, wow, there's all this communication going on between the dogs that I didn't even really take any notice of. But you'll get much more connection with your animals and much better be able to serve them and look after them and give them a good, happy, healthy life. And in whole energy body balance method online trainings, this is something that we really, really dig into. So if you're interested in learning how to give your dogs the best life possible, give us a hoy and we'll give you some information about those online trainings with the healing body work and communication and behaviour and training and all that sort of good stuff. Thank you so much for listening to this week's show. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye for now.